This is the Shoot After Hip podcast, and on this edition, we will be continuing my top greatest matches of all time. If you're just joining us, we did a countdown from 7 all the way to number 5. If you don't remember what they were, I'll give them to you again. Number 7, Owen Hart versus Bret Hart, SummerSlam for the WWF Championship inside of a steel cage. Number 6, Kevin Sullivan versus Chris Benoit, Great American Bash, Falls Count Anywhere. Number 5, Bray Wyatt versus the Yes Man, Daniel Bryan. And now as we fast forward, we're going to be talking about the number 4 greatest match of all time. And that match is Bret Hart versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. Now I know a lot of people are familiar with this match, WrestleMania 13. I mean, these two guys tore the house down. I mean, a rivalry that was going on for months. Basically, this rivalry wasn't really supposed to be happening, if you want to be honest, man. Stone Cold Steve Austin and Bret Hart were not supposed to be fighting at WrestleMania 13. It actually was supposed to be a match between Shawn Michaels and Bret the Hitman Hart, but we all know about that history, about those two not really getting along. We know about Shawn Michaels doing the epic promo about him losing his smile and relinquishing the WWF Championship. A lot of people feel like, Shawn Michaels did this because he did not want to lose. He did not want to lose to Bret the Hitman Hart because last year at WrestleMania 12, they had their famous Iron Man match, and Bret Hart actually did the business for Shawn Michaels, but everything kind of happened during that time between those two, a lot of friction. So Bret Hart did not get opportunity to get his receipt, if you speak, with Shawn Michaels. So instead, we got a great match, which was Bret the Hitman Hart versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like I said, they actually tore the house down. This was clearly the best match of the night on WrestleMania 13. I mean, WrestleMania 13 was actually a pretty stagnant card. I mean, really, there wasn't any significant matches. Even the main event itself, The Undertaker versus Psycho Sid, wasn't that good. But Stone Cold Steve Austin, emerging Stone Cold Steve Austin, came out versus Bret the Hitman Hart. I mean, no disqualification match, and they just went everywhere with it, man. We know about the famous slingshot that Stone Cold Steve Austin did to Bret the Hitman Hart, sending him over the table, hitting the monitor. And we can never, ever forget the famous sharpshooter with Stone Cold Steve Austin having blood dripping down his face. I mean, he was in the sharpshooter, blood streaming down, and we know that he passed out from the exhaustion. It's not so much this match was good, because it was. I mean, I'm going to be honest about that. It was a good match. But it was mostly because this was the emergence of Stone Cold Steve Austin. I think a lot of matches have significant meaning, not because they were so good and not because of the chemistry the two individuals had. It's clear that these two guys had chemistry, but it was more so the meaning of this match. I mean, Stone Cold Steve Austin, the music comes on, his famous music. Dun-dun, dun-dun, dun-dun. All of a sudden, the glass breaks, for him to come out and he walks through the glass, man. I mean, and that night, it was actually one of the famous shifts of all time. I mean, what I mean by shifts is when a heel becomes a babyface and a babyface becomes a heel. You got Stone Cold Steve Austin, who was clearly a heel at the time, but because of the whole landscape changing, the shift from the new generation to the Attitude Era, we had Stone Cold Steve Austin being revered and cheered by fans, and Bret the Hitman Hart, who did absolutely nothing wrong. It was just basically like people were just kind of getting bored with his gimmick, man, the whole apple pie good guy thing. I mean, Bret the Hitman Hart is clearly one of the greatest technical wrestlers of all time, but there was a shift going on. There was something going on with the fans. They were tired of seeing those comic book character type superstars, and they wanted something real. And it didn't get any realer than Stone Cold Steve Austin. And these guys that night, they did it to perfection, man. Stone Cold Steve Austin passed out from exhaustion from the sharpshooter, blood streaming down his face. I mean, and he just I mean, his career took off after that, man. Then you see Bret the Hitman Hart. I mean, he turned into a heel, and we know about that whole gimmick about the, being booed in the United States and cheered in Canada. I mean, these two guys actually did an outstanding job, and it basically just catapulted the career of one Stone Cold Steve Austin to being what we know as the greatest superstar of all time. Everybody loves Stone Cold Steve Austin. I mean, I never met a human being that didn't like Stone Cold Steve Austin. Even a casual fan, a person that doesn't even know anything about wrestling knows something about Stone Cold Steve Austin. So this match right here was so synonymous with the career of Stone Cold Steve Austin, and it was just a great match altogether. It really sticks in my mind, and it is definitely one of my favorite matches of all time. But on this list, it is my number 4 greatest match of all time. Coming up next time, I'm going to give you my number 3 greatest match of all time. This has been a Shoot at the Hip podcast. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go ahead and give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Comment down below and follow me on Twitter, which is TJ Jones 8. Thank you all for checking out the Shoot at the Hip podcast. And like always, I'll see you down the road.